Hello, and welcome to the 10th installment of the Rocket IT podcast. I'm your host, Matt Hyatt, and today we have the honor of interviewing Suzanne Masino, occupational therapist turned tech entrepreneur. During her 25-year tenure in the healthcare field, Suzanne has served as a therapist, a recruiter, a leader, and business owner. With her recent launch of healthcare tech startup Matchwell, Suzanne is breaking new ground, not just in her own life, but possibly in an entire industry. Now, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Suzanne to the show. Suzanne, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Hey, you know what? You and I would start right off the bat here. We know each other, right? We're friends. We've known each other for a number of years now.
Absolutely.
And so it's been a pleasure spending time with you and your husband, Nick. Our families have spent time together, and so it's been a lot of fun. And one of the things I think is really cool is that early on, and I think it was the very first time that you and I met, was at an event that was here in town. Your husband, Nick, said, hey, you should talk to Suzanne. She's really interested in entrepreneurship. And you and I sat down right there at the party, and we hung out for a while. Do you remember that?
And
so we were talking about your aspirations for owning a business someday and spending more time in sort of the entrepreneurial field. And at the time, you were working for somebody else,
That's
right?
right.
It was something completely different.
That's right.
So,
Kindred Healthcare. Yep.
And
right.
now look at you.
Now look at me.
Yeah. So that is so awesome. So I went through in preparation for our podcast conversation. I was looking through your LinkedIn background and just kind of trying to catch up with what you've done and what you've accomplished over the years. And you've had a long career in the healthcare space,
Correct.
And most of that's really been in the recruiting space, specifically in healthcare, right?
That's right.
But I would like to kind of go back to the beginning because your formal training as occupational therapist, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So tell me about that. You thought you were interested in healthcare and actually practicing medicine, right?
That's right.
Is that what we call that?
That's exactly right.
And it seemed like early on, within the first year or two, you found yourself in a leadership role.
That's right.
How did that happen?
To back it up, I wanted to be an occupational therapist. I was one of those rare kids that knew what I wanted to do by the age of 12 due to a personal experience. A good friend of mine, it's kind of a fairy tale story, but was in a motorcycle accident and a head injury. Ended up in a coma, and I would go to visit her and worked with the therapist on getting her healed. She ended up full recovery. She's a mom of 3 children now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it worked out really well. But I was 12.
Can you imagine 3 kids? That
I
sounds
can't,
like a lot.
right? That would be crazy. Who would ever do that? But I just enjoyed it as a kid, watching the scene. The house, I was just excited about the whole hospital. It didn't scare me. I was just intrigued by all of it, especially the therapist working to kind of get her back on her feet and recovered. And so they would teach me ways to work with her, and she responded well to me because we were friends. And I remember clearly overhearing a therapist tell my mom while I was working with her, like, someday she'd make a really great occupational therapist.
Oh,
an impressionable age of 12. I'm like,
right.
I'm not sure what that is, but I'm all over it. So yes, I was attracted to healthcare from a very early age.
So one of the things that I love about you is you are very much a people person. You know, it's very obvious from the first time that you meet you that you are really sort of driven by helping others. And so it sounds like the perfect career.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did you make the transition, though, from, okay, I'm the one practicing the therapy to now I'm leading others?
That's right. It just happened quickly, I think.
At a young age,
a young age, yes. Early 20s. I was working, started off at a big hospital in Columbus, and then as we moved here to Georgia, worked for a nursing home out in Monroe, and found that there was some need for leadership. And it was a disconnect between, the higher level leadership down to the communication at the facility level. And so, I guess early on, because I identified a problem, they were like, hey, why don't you take that lead role? And the rest was history. So,
wow.
It was just by chance. It wasn't intentional to get into management side of it, but ended up loving it and felt like I could make a better impact on the whole rehab department as opposed to just occupational therapy. So ended up quickly getting into a leadership roles where I managed, 15, 20 nursing homes throughout the state of Georgia and their rehab departments. Correct.
At the ripe old age of 20-something?
Yeah, it was right. Yeah.
So I'm going to guess, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to guess that a lot of the people that reported to you at that time were older than 20 and something.
Correct. Yes.
How did that go?
Yeah, that was tricky. That was tricky too. Yeah, talk about the people side of me. It was intimidating. And so, yeah, early on, not by reading much or having much knowledge of leadership, but realized I was getting further faster by connecting and listening to their ideas and trying to implement, their thoughts into strategies that they thought were important. So,
wow.
Yeah, I learned a lot from them as well. And so I guess just early on took a sort of a humble leadership type approach because it worked.
That's a very mature approach. I'll tell you what, I wish that I had, it had come naturally to me at that age. I've had to learn, read books, figure it out along the way. And as anyone on my team will tell you, another 20 years, I'm going to have it figured out. So good job.
Oh, no, I don't have it figured out for sure. But yeah, it was.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So how did the transition from